School knowledge is the formal kind of knowledge acquired by learners under the auspices of the school, supervised by the teacher, and the children's experiential knowledge comes from the experience gained by them, and it is more informal in kind. The knowledge gained from the experience can also be called as experiential learning. To determine the best practices in experiential learning, it is necessary to first define experiential learning. In the words of Lewis and Williams, in its simplest form, experiential learning means learning from experience or learning by doing. Experiential education first immerses learners in an experience and then encourages reflection about the experience to develop new skills, new attitudes, or new ways of thinking. Experiential learning is also built upon a foundation of interdisciplinary and constructivist learning. Experiential methodology does not treat each subject as being walled off in its own room, unconnected to any other subjects. Compartmentalized learning does not reflect the real world, while as the experiential classroom works to create an interdisciplinary learning experience that mimics real world learning. Who benefits most from experiential learning? The first and foremost beneficiary of experiential learning is the student. Depending upon the learner population, the benefits of experiential learning can increase. Learner groups that have been shown to benefit from experiential learning include the mature learner who has been long removed from the traditional classroom and needs the motivation of contextual learning to get them back into the swing of academia. The learner who needs to personally experience the value of a subject in order to be motivated to learn. The learner who has trouble learning within the formal classroom and needs an alternate learning method in order to succeed. Any learner who can benefit from having hands-on examples to bolster the traditional learning. The types of experiential learning. Experiential learning can be divided into two major categories: field-based experiences and classroom-based learning. Field-based learning is the oldest and most established form of experiential learning, having been integrated into higher education in the 1930s. Field-based learning includes internships, practicums, cooperative education, and service learning. Classroom-based experiential learning can take a multitude of forms, including role-playing, games, case studies, simulations, presentations, and various types of group work. Let us see how we can design experiential activities. As mentioned above, it is not the particular activity that is experiential. It is the way that it is framed that makes it experiential. So, how are instructional activities made experiential? A general framework could be: decide which parts of your course can be instructed more effectively with experiential learning. Think about how any potential activities match the course learning objectives. Think about how the potential activity complements the overall course of study. Think about the grading criteria and evaluation method that would match the proposed activity. Once a potential activity has been identified, it has to be framed properly to be fully experiential. First, begin by thinking of problems to be solved rather than information to be remembered. A problem or question must be intertwined with activities, projects, and field based experiences. This will help ensure that a combination of thinking and doing occurs in the learning process. Urdinger has provided a short guide to integrating experiential learning into a course that may help instructors start thinking about the process holistically. Use a major project or field experience to guide learning over the entire course. Having one major task to work on all semester motivates students to keep moving forward, gives them a clear goal to focus on, and becomes the driving force behind everything the student does in the class. When students know what they are aiming toward, they understand that each class has purpose because it provides a stepping stone toward that overall aim. Use a combination of projects, classroom activities, and external experiences to keep the course interesting and engaging while adding value to the overall process. Tie everything together. The class readings and lectures should be directly related to any experiential activities. The readings and class activities should all be thought of as resources that will help the students complete their major project. Ensure activities are challenging yet manageable. When students are given the responsibility of devising their own projects, the instructor must then make sure that they are able to complete them. Provide clear expectations for students. This could include assessment criteria or examples of completed projects and activities from previous courses. Allow students the necessary time to identify, clarify, and keep focused on the problem. Allow students to change direction midstream. The most important thing is that the students be working on projects that are meaningful and relevant to them. If they lack interest, the learning will also be lacking. Designing classroom activities. According to Urdinger, there are some key things to keep in mind when implementing classroom activities. The importance of being able to make mistakes. Students are accustomed to being penalized for making mistakes. Instructors in an experiential classroom must work hard to overcome the stigma attached to mistakes by actively celebrating them as opportunities for learning. Allowing students to make mistakes may also lead to a situation where they retain more information because it is a more challenging learning process. The importance of personal relevance. Discover what the students are interested in and then select the appropriate problems. When interest is internal as opposed to being forced, students become both emotionally and intellectually invested in the learning process. The importance of students understanding why they are doing something. If the student cannot see the reason behind their project or do not see why they are involved, they may not learn anything at all. The importance of matching students with appropriate activities. In experiential learning, the means are as important as the ends. Therefore, it is of utmost importance that students stay engaged throughout the whole process. Not enough challenge may result in boredom, and too much challenge may result in frustration. In both cases, engagement will drop and learning will cease. The importance of students reflecting on their experience. This step is tied to the previous one, reflection, along with driving questions from the instructor will help students maintain interest, learn successfully, and complete their task. The importance of the instructor delegating authority to the students. In experiential learning, the instructor serves as a guide and a resource to students rather than as a leader. This does not mean teachers withdraw from power by denouncing their authority. Instead, the teacher needs to use the respect and position they enjoy at the onset of class to promote student empowerment. Designing external activities. To help learners make sense of their experience, it is crucial that learning be focused. Moon suggests that learning can be focused with the following: carefully structured learning outcomes, briefing sessions, and or handouts, opportunities for reflection, tasks that directly apply what has been learned from the placement, assessment criteria. To help clarify what she means by the importance of helping students understand how their particular experience applies to the world as a whole, Moon has listed areas of potential learning that should be included in learning outcomes and assessment criteria for external activities. When planning an external activity, instructors should consider this list and select the most appropriate items to expand upon. As part of an external experiential activity, a student should learn about work and workplace practices, how organizations work, communication skills, and about working with people, about personal work behavior patterns, to evaluate their own performance, to work with feedback from others, about their own career aspirations, to plan and complete projects, to learn from experience, about self management, to use reflection and reflective practice, key employability or other skills not easily gained elsewhere in the curriculum, self confidence and a willingness to take initiatives, and to enhance their orientation towards lifelong learning. The other major hurdle that instructors must successfully leap when developing external activities is the identification and recruitment of placement sites and supervisors and the negotiation of agreements that will benefit both the site and the students. Cantor describes several key ingredients for successful placements. Programs should be designed to make them of sufficient duration that employers are motivated to invest in training and use the program as their primary recruitment source. Placement opportunities should be substantive enough to be challenging even to highly educated or experienced adults. Instructors should locate the positions in the curricula with great professional potential and a dearth of entry level opportunities. Instructors should visit the potential site and list the benefits that will accrue to each and the expectations of each partner. There should be a written agreement listing the kinds of activities that the students will be doing as part of the placement. Make sure there is a mutual understanding of the working conditions, salary, if any, hours of work, attendance, and evaluation process. These need to be spelled out in the written agreement. Make sure limits of liability are understood. When negotiating with potential partner institutions, Cantor reminds instructors to expressly state that mentors are expected to help learners explicitly understand learning as it is occurring, that expectations between mentors and learners must be mutually understood and agreed upon and reviewed periodically, and that concrete exhibition of learning and skills should be encouraged to enhance the learner's self-concept. Running experiential activities, the role of the instructor. The role of the instructor in the experiential classroom is different than in the traditional classroom. In the experiential classroom, the instructor is a guide, a cheerleader, a resource, and a support. Because students must take control of their own learning, the instructor must work to both relinquish their authoritarian influence and become, instead, an integral member of the evolving group. Students accrue power as their initial promise of academic freedom becomes realized. After the students have attained self-determination, intervention by the teacher acting as a leader occurs only in situations when the group lacks the skills to deal with obstacles they encounter. When thinking about the role of the instructor in the experiential classroom, it can be helpful to ask several critical questions. Whose experience is it? Whose definition of success is being used? What is the goal of the activity for the student? How invested is the instructor in guaranteeing a certain student outcome? These questions can help instructors explore any preconceptions they might have or discover areas in which they have not fully relinquished control over learning. Warren lays out the teacher's role as encompassing in the following areas: informed consent. Students need to know what they are getting into so they can make responsible choices. An instructor should provide a precise course description and a detailed introduction to both the potentials and perplexities of the class. Establishing a concrete vision. To help students make the leap to self-determination, instructors must provide some initial structure and focusing. The instructor provides a concrete vision of the class by suggesting the course goals and what the students might expect from such an endeavor. The instructor also facilitates the first several weeks of class to give direction and set a model for future class sessions. Setting ground rules. By setting basic operating principles by both statement and example, the instructor creates a safety net for students, empowering them to take risks. Some potential ground rules are suggested by Warren are the use of I statements to express feelings, active listening, use of inclusive language, constructive feedback, and intolerance of oppression. Providing process tools. In their work, either in class groups or as part of teams within placements, students need the appropriate skills for being part of collaborative projects. For each of these skills, Warren suggests ways to help students develop their capabilities. Thinking as a group. In order to come up with what they want to learn, students should be introduced to brainstorming and prioritizing strategies. Decision making. Explain consensus decision making and then help students test it out by starting with small decisions that grow gradually more complex. Leadership. To ensure all students can practice being leaders, the instructor can point out the many potential leadership roles such as timekeeper, feelings articulator, group collective conscience, minority opinion advocate, question framer, summarizer, focuser, and gatekeeper. Problem solving. Providing students with opportunities to solve simple problems at the beginning will help them refine the skills they need to solve more complex problems in the future. Feedback and debriefing. Because evaluation and reflection are a crucial component of experiential learning, the instructor must ensure that feedback and debriefing occurs. Insisting on quality feedback time early in the course sets an expectation for continuation during the later sessions. As much as it is the responsibility of the instructor to allow students to take control of their own learning, there are teaching techniques that can enhance reflective and experiential learning. Moon lists the following methods. Wait time. When lecturing, the instructor should take opportunities to pause between sentences and give students the opportunity to reflect or question what they have just heard. Confronting learners with their misconceptions. Learners are helped if their misconceptions are pursued to the end, not just corrected. Concept maps. Find out how learners see a topic by asking them to draw a concept map. The differences in each learner's map may demonstrate differences in thinking and therefore material on which to reflect. Require learners to explain and apply. Asking students to explain a concept and then apply it to something else will help determine which students have picked up the necessary skills of critical thinking and reflection and which have not. Further, if learners know they will be required to explain something, they are likely to adopt a deep approach to the learning of it. Questioning. The type of questions used both in class and in assessments matters when it comes to experiential learning. Open questions, leading questions, and questions set as problems to be considered are all effective ways of encouraging reflection. Often, the simplest questions are the most difficult to answer and demand the most thought. Once students have been provided with the necessary skills and information, the instructor then steps back and serves as a resource person, cheerleader, and facilitator. Instructor as resource. After topics have been selected and projects have gotten underway, the instructor becomes the resource for readings, speakers, films, and programs. By having a ready reporter of provocative resources, the teacher can influence the quality of the course content. Instructor as cheerleader. Because experiential learning often forces students outside of their comfort zone, the instructor must help build their confidence in the process. Students often need someone to point out that their struggles are an important part of growth towards success. The instructor should reframe conflicts and difficulties in a positive light, show faith in the students, and exude enthusiasm for the process. Instructor as facilitator. During the learning process, the instructor must create, support, and model a safe environment where students feel valued, trusted, and respected. Verbally remind students that they are in control of their learning experiences. Give students the power to make meaningful choices and model each behavior in a variety of ways to make sure the concepts are fully understood and absorbed. Finally, instructors must provide a sense of closure when bringing the experiential process to an end. The instructor should help students to understand what they have accomplished over the course of their experiential activity. As they articulate their growth, students can better internalize what self-determination has taught them. They can also postulate future applications of the theories learned, asking for written and verbal self-evaluations and encouraging a closure celebration are ways for instructors to assist students with closure. Let us discuss the methods for assessing experiential activities. There are many potential ways to assess experiential activities, both external and internal. These methods are tied to reflection, helping learners to focus their learning while also producing a product for assessment purposes. Moon lists several examples: maintenance of a learning journal or a portfolio, reflection on critical incidents, presentation on what has been learnt, analysis of strengths and weaknesses and related action planning, essay or report on what has been learnt, preferably with references to experts from reflective writing, self-awareness tools and exercises, example, questionnaires about learning patterns, a review of a book that relates the work experience to own discipline, short answer questions of a why or explain nature, a project that develops ideas further, it may be a group or individual, self-evaluation of a task performed, an article, example for a newspaper, explaining something in the workplace, recommendation for improvement of some practice, a sensitive matter, an interview of the learner as a potential worker in the workplace, a story that involves thinking about learning in the placement, a request that students take a given theory and observe its application in the workplace, an oral exam. Dear viewers, in this lesson, we have seen so far on school knowledge, experiential knowledge, the definition for experiential learning, its types and methods to design experiential activities. Thank you.